you to another edition of Fired Up Wisconsin. I'm joined by Scott Morganroth. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Glad to be back on. You knew I wasn't going to disappear. I'm out there doing what I've got to do. But every opportunity, I like to show up with you guys and talk some Wisconsin sports. And we're going to be heading up in that direction in a couple of weeks anyway. So, I'm not looking forward to the cold weather. The change of scenery works, but glad to be on the program. Thanks, Eric.
What's cold to you in Florida?
Oh, I can handle 40-degree weather. I mean, these transplants down, these local people struggle with 60, 70. But you got to go up to the Midwest one or two times a year during it's cold so your blood thickens a little so you can laugh at the local people. That's what you can do. So I have no problem with it. I'm looking. Hey, I'll be happy when I have an opportunity to go to Racine with Candy. And we get to hang out over at the marina. Oh, what a beautiful thing. You want to talk about, if it's cold weather, your mind gets warm with the sanctuary and the serenity that downtown Racine has for me. And I'm looking forward to returning to my favorite place out there in that particular area. But no, I can handle cold weather.
Yep.
I remember I was born and raised in Metro Detroit, so better.
This is true.
So
also, also joining us is Scott's boss, Candy.
Well, good evening, everybody. How are you tonight?
I'm well, Candy. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Good. It's good to be back on talking about my favorite state of Wisconsin.
Yep. Next, we're joined by the Wisconsin native, Brett Gardefee. Brett.
How's it going, everyone?
And then also, last but not least, the great Rick Curdy.
Thanks, Eric. Glad to be back on Fired Up Wisconsin.
Okay. Moving on to today's topics, we're going to start with the Milwaukee Brewers. Obviously, there's been a lot of movement with the Brewers, given they traded Hunter Renfroe, but then also recently they acquired Jesse Winker, who last year spent time on the Mariners, but was a big part of the Reds in 2021, getting his first All-Star game appearance and absolutely hitting the Brewers crazy at American Family Field. But the big question to everybody tonight is, they traded Renfroe. That made sense. He's going to be, his team control runs out after this year, and he's going to be a free agent. And they got a bunch of relief pitchers from the Angels. So we're thinking, okay, they seem to be heading into a rebuild. They traded Colton Wong for Jesse Winker, and also Abraham Toro. Which Toro, he's got years of team control left, and he's potentially a project, but it's a low risk. It could be a low risk, high reward type of deal. But the big part about it was getting Jesse Winker. Guys, given that what the Brewers have done, what exactly are they doing, starting with Mr. Curdy?
I have absolutely no idea. They need some offense in a worse way. They're making some cute little deals here. I understand Renfroe's contract's running out, and you don't want to lose him for nothing, so you might as well get him for something. But other than that, they're just doing tiny little things here and there, a little sprinkle here, a little sprinkle there. They need some offense. They need to get a bat. They need to get a big bat or a big name bat. Honestly, I really don't know what the Brewers are doing. They're a really good team. And they're like a playoff team. But right now, they're doing little things. But to me, it's just not enough.
Brett, the Wisconsin native, who like myself has a beat on what's going on around here.
Yeah, it's hard to tell right now. It seems like they're just making a lot of little marginal moves around the edges. They did trade away Wong and Renfroe. They're arguably, two best hitters from last year. So it's hard to say right now. I want to give it some more time and see what other moves they make before making like a final verdict on him, because it's kind of hard to tell what they're trying to accomplish right now.
Candy.
We have a new GM that is trying to figure out what he wants to do, I think. There is rumors going around now that Andrew McCutchen is on the trading back, that the Tampa Bay Rays want Andrew McCutchen. So that would be interesting. We need hitters because, let's face it, last year at the end of the year, we were all like, well, where did all our hitters go? We're not hitting the ball. We need pitchers too because we let some of our good pitchers go. I think they're making these small moves. Let's face it, the Brewers are a small market. We're never going to afford the Justin Verlanders and those contracts. So maybe they're waiting for the big guys to get signed so that they can see who's left that they can actually afford. That's
Scott.
mine. Scott, your turn.
Yeah,
All right. Well, reality is I'm still trying to figure out why they made the Josh Hader trade.
you and me both. Like, that is still kind of
mean,
rolling around in my head.
If I'm looking for the perfect game to play on this show pertaining to the Brewers, I really have two of them that I'd like to suggest. One, play the Rubik's Cube, because I've really never solved that puzzle. So that's number one. Number two, they're playing checkers because they're certainly doing a bad job playing chess. Okay. And if Craig Counsell gets his team to the playoffs again, I will go out there and tell you right now, I will talk until the day I die. Get this man a gold hat. And I mean gold. Let's see how heavy that thing will be on top of this guy's head. Because I don't know how he's going to do with the breadcrumbs that the Brewers are leading them with. So I don't know. I'm still a little bit befuddled by the Josh Hader move, especially when you were a contender and you had another year of team control. You don't think to tell me that you couldn't have made that trade perhaps at the trade deadline next year, maybe a little less value of it. What did you really get there except the fact that you deflated your clubhouse? Listen, I've been covering Major League Baseball a lot of years in team sports, and the one thing that's worse than anything is when you're hovering around a trade deadline, are you buyers or sellers? And when you send the wrong message to your club, holy moly, you might as well take that pin and pop that balloon, because it's a loud noise that everybody's going to hear about. So I don't know. To me, Milwaukee Brewers, when you go out there and figure it out and you learn to play chess, you got me interested. But the Josh Hader move is stunning. A lot of these moves here I don't understand. And now, Kenny, that you're bringing Andrew McCutchen into the fray, okay, so unfortunately, when Christian Yelich is playing and he's healthy, the man cannot play and hit in nine. He can't be a one-man crew in the order 1 through 9. He only occupies one spot in the batting order. Let's hope he's healthy there, because I know they've got a lot of money invested into him. They invested a lot of money into Ryan Braun, and they try to keep some of their stars locked in for a while. But geez, when on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Rick and I were talking about some of these monster contracts that were handed out. I know it's pulling teeth when they couldn't retain Prince Fielder a while back either, where you had Fielder and Braun, but they did get Yelich and swindled the Marlins for that one. The Marlins swindled on a few of them. So, but nevertheless, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out this riddle, because I haven't been able to do it. I just don't understand any of these moves. Maybe David Stearns was smart. Maybe he got out at the right time, take a break from being in the hot seat, find out where he's going to go, see what happens for a year or two. This guy could be another general manager's chair before it's all said and done. So,
all right, here's what I think's going on. I wrote about this the other day. Obviously, last year to start, the Brewers are very much a home run or nothing offense. They hit a lot of home runs last year, no doubt. But other than that, when you got the runners on and you need that big hit, Brewers were unable to get it. That was their problem that plagued them in 2021, and it came back to bite them in 2022. Granted, there were injuries involved with it, but still, point remains the same. I think what the Brewers are trying to do is with trading Cole Wong is they got some nice outfield prospects. We saw Garrett Mitchell come up last year, and he did all right for the few games that he played. He was not a bad player, and I personally think he's going to be the center fielder next year. They also have Sal Frelick and Joey Weimer and Esteury Ruiz, who will be competing for playing time this spring. I think what they're trying to do is with the Winker deal, they're banking on a resurgence, because in Seattle he just wasn't the same Jesse Winker that he was with the Cincinnati Reds in 2021, where he was hitting the ball left and right. And him being he's not a big power bat, so the contact bat is good, because that's what the Brewers ultimately needed. You need a guy who can just hit it on all fields, not just out of the park, but hit all fields. Plus, at American Family Field, he had a slash line of 344, 440, and 591 with an OPS of 1.032 in 32 career games at American Family Field / Miller Park, if you want to be so specific to going back to that. But, they're banking on his resurgence, meaning he can get back to the form that he had in 2021 with the Reds. And they were also banking on the fact that Willy Adames, Rowdy Tellez, among other people, as well as their pitching staff, which is still very vaunted, especially with Corbin Burns, who, despite no Cy Young, still gave a nice encore to that season from last year. They're banking on the fact that those guys who are already there, as well as Winker, can keep them competitive as well, while also getting a look at the prospects, saying, okay, do we have something here? Are these guys special? I'm not going to say they're once in a gen talents, but they're not. But the question is, do we have something here, and figure out what they have to try and build up to that? I mean, with the Hader trade, that hurt. You just don't trade your closer when you're in first place. You just don't.
Right.
You were a game ahead of the Cardinals.
Right.
The Cardinals themselves, it's a tale of two teams with the Brewers and the Cardinals. The Brewers are to pitching or what the Cardinals are to hitting. That's just how it is in that division, and it's actually quite entertaining. It's a reason why against the Phillies that team totally capped out, and didn't really, and when they weren't hitting the ball and they didn't have the arms, the Phillies came out and murdered their pitching in faster than a Colton Wong stolen base. But I think that the Brewers are trying to see what they have in their prospects, while also trying to be competitive, while also trying to have the players that they do have, like Willy Adames and Rowdy Tellez. Tellez was a borderline all-star, unfortunately, in the National League. That first base is deep. They got a lot of great first basemen in the league right now. And Tellez still had himself a nice year, as well as Adames, who, despite missing a month of the year, he had 98 RBIs. Imagine what he would have done with that extra month.
Well, Eric, let me give you a little thing about baseball that people have to understand. The worst words on the planet are you're banking on somebody to do this, okay? And when you're talking about you're banking or counting on somebody to do this, okay, are you paying them on their past year's performance that you expect? Because if we built teams based on potential, what you're banking on, how many World Series champions would you crown anyhow? When you talk about Brewers hitting home runs or nothing, well, the only guy that comes to my mind is a guy by the name of Rob Deere. And Rob Deere, it's either you hit it deep or you don't hit it at all. And I even think Rob Deere made it over to the Detroit Tigers and couldn't hit him out of Tigers Stadium frequently enough, and that was the most hitter-friendly ballpark on the planet. So when you preface the fact that we're counting on or banking on, I don't know, I think that those are words when it comes to baseball circles that get managers and general managers fired because you miscalculated the talent that you had, knowing that, okay, you have career years, you bring guys back after they won a World Series, their production tapers off, and what do you have? Because I can tell you right now, I lived it in '84 with the Tigers, when the Tigers practically brought back the same team the following year, didn't win it again, but yet they went right to 104 and 58 record, wire to wire, win the World Series and beat the Padres. So, it doesn't, even though you have a great team for a season, don't forget about career years versus consistency. And that's where a lot of people in baseball get things misconstrued a little bit. Sorry to interrupt you, but you made some very good points. I wanted to get those to the forefront.
The Brewers tried this last year with Andrew McCutchen. They weren't expecting it to be MVP McCutchen, but they were at least trying to get, productive McCutchen. I mean, he did okay, but the guy is not what he used to be. Granted, the bat speed's still there, but he wasn't Andrew McCutchen during, obviously not the Pirate years, but even with the Giants, he wasn't that guy. He wasn't. They put him back in the NL Central where the guy was just early in his career was tearing the cover off of the ball to the tune of one MVP, as well as leading the Pirates to the playoffs, which I'm sure Mancini would beg for right now and probably sell every asset he owns. But they tried this last year with McCutchen. I think with Winker, they're trying it again because they know that, Winker at American Family Field, this guy hit us all over the place. So they traded Colton Wong, who also getting older, and obviously I don't think his bat speed's there anymore. But I think they're trying to just do this experiment again, basically have him placehold and then let him go, because I know after this year his team control, I believe, is up, and the Brewers are just going to probably let him leave as well. Yeah. But right now the Brewers, they're trying to stay in the middle of the road. Like, which to me is a bad idea because you're either contending or you're not. You don't want to be the Colorado Rockies where you let go of Trevor Story. Okay, we see you're rebuilding or whatever, and then you make those trades to get prospects or whatever, and then you go ahead that offseason and sign Chris Bryant. It makes no sense. But they don't want to be a franchise that doesn't make sense. And I really think that at the moment with Matt Arnold, I know it's a little early. They're starting to look like a franchise that really doesn't make any sense. Right now, the Red Sox have kind of become that as well. Not that I feel bad for them.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't. Yeah.
And remember, it's the winter meetings right now. So this is the time when you're going to see some movement. It'll be interesting to see what moves we can make. I know that the Cubs in our division have a lot of money, and they're looking to go after some big names in the shortstop category. They're looking for Bogarts or some.
You can take Bogues. You can take Bogues out of the AL East. I wouldn't complain. I would just enjoy watching the Red Sox lose 100+ games. Not that I feel bad for them. But back to Wisconsin. I just think that the Brewers, it's early with Matt Arnold, but right now he's starting to look like Chaim Bloom.
That's interesting. Okay.
All right, moving on to the next subject. Obviously, we all know about the Wisconsin Badgers despite Jim Leonard being expected to be named head coach because he got them bowl eligible. The Badgers went outside the Barry Alvarez coaching tree and plucked Luke Fickell from the University of Cincinnati. Now, with that, obviously comes an exodus of moves, decommits, whatever. We know that. I mean, this is what happens when you hire a new coach. Your recruiting class becomes a mess because a new guy's in. It's not the guy you thought you'd be playing for, although I do. But Graham Mertz transferred out. But on a better note, Braylon Allen is staying, and also despite being reported that he would stay, Jim Leonard's future is still very much up in the air. Now the question remains, will Jim Leonard stay at Wisconsin or will he move to either an open head coaching job or B, will he go to another school where he'll be a defensive coordinator, but it will still be a great job where he just slingshots himself to a head job, or C, does he stay at Wisconsin? I know the Packers have talked to him in the past, but he opted to stay at Wisconsin, which I really think Joe Barry for the Packers is on a hot seat so hot he might have burnt the chair into two. So guys, what do we make of this move for Luke Fickell to start?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think it's a good hire, a gutty hire. I do. Number one, albeit he went 1 year with Ohio State with 6-7, but did a fantastic job building the Cincinnati program, a program which is, to me, moved into the Power 5 conference. He's done a great job. I think he certainly do. He's a Midwestern guy, Big Ten, kind of guy, and I think he's going to do a great job. I really do. Luke Fickell has deserved an opportunity, and everybody talk about the success of the Big Ten. Who in their right mind would not want to take a good Big Ten coaching job? Now, let me give you a great story that I can tell you right now. One of my good friends in Detroit, who actually used to be the sports information director for the Wolverines, told me at a Detroit sports media party one time that if he wasn't the SID or communications guy for Michigan and Ann Arbor, he would have gone out there and he would love to go to Wisconsin. And when you're talking about a guy at Michigan, if he wasn't in his current role, going to Wisconsin, there's more to Wisconsin meets the eye. Loves the atmosphere of Madison. Mm-hmm. Why not? So Bruce Made is the guy I'm referring to, by the way. He's a guy that I look up on. One of my good friends back in Metro Detroit with U of M. And so if he's going to think that highly of Wisconsin, well, Luke Fickell made a good move. I've only been to Madison once, but it's a great town for what I spent a full day there. I think it's a really cool place. So, and he did pay pretty good money.
I lived there.
$7.9 million, right? A year?
Something like that, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I know you live there. I know you're
3 years. I lived there.
Back to the bigger of the bigger cities. But no, I mean, $7.9 million to take on Wisconsin, that's not bad pay if you can get it. But, yeah, in terms of the second half of your question, Garrick, once again, you bring up another good point. Does Jim Leonard stay there? He thought he earned the job. I understand that they wanted to go with a proven guy with head coaching experience. So I could see both sides. Me personally, I would love to see Jim Leonard with the Green Bay Packers. I think that would be a great move. And I think the Packers could use him. Not only is he a Wisconsin kid, but he knows defense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a win-win all the way around for the state. I guess when you think about him going to other schools, what other schools, Eric? I'm going to take over the moderator role just against you directly. Okay, this is just you and me, Eric. Where do you think he would go anyways? What jobs are left? Whether he could get a head coaching job?
I don't think he'd get a head coach. Well, unless something happens where a coach goes somewhere else. I really believe like his best bet to get a head job, because if he wanted a head job, he would have had to leave now.
Right.
But he didn't, because he still wanted to ponder his future, which man has a right to do. I think at this point, his best bet is to just go to an open Power 5 defensive coordinator job. Like he could have gone to he can have any job he wants at this point in his career. And, I'm 100% sure a coach will gladly have him on staff, given what he's done there, and probably pay him a bucket load of money, more than Wisconsin would ever pay him. But, I think that would be his best bet. He'd probably want to go to a bigger Power 5 school. That way he just fast tracks it, and then boom, it slingshots him to a head job.
Okay, you said that, but name me a few that he would go to. Name me.
I don't have a beat on the open jobs right now.
It doesn't matter. You know why? I asked you that question?
Why?
Because he's in a Power 5 situation with Wisconsin. It's just a year. You see what happens in a year, and then you evaluate the open market. He might as well stay put and see what the new regime does and see what he can learn from Fickell. And that's why I asked you that question.
I think that it let's just say hypothetically he leaves. It wouldn't, he'd get, I know Luke Fickell would just bring his defensive coordinator at Cincinnati, Mike Tressel, which Mike Tressel's no slouch.
Right.
And, as far as Luke Fickell at Ohio State for a year, okay, that's a little bit of an unfair comparison, because he took over that job because Jim Tressel got fired given Tattoo-gate, and that program was so distracted that it's a miracle that they got to the Gator Bowl.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I understand the situation well, and obviously I documented it in past shows as well. I'm sure he took over a tough. Anytime, Eric, you take on an interim job, it's always going to be a tough situation because you're walking into a difficult situation anyways. I don't care whether you're at the pro level college. It had nothing to do with it. Yep. But the point is you. I'm challenging you right now, Eric, in front of Brett and Rick, and I'm sorry to get away with both of you guys now, but Eric brings up a pretty interesting point here, okay? You're telling me, okay, that Jim Leonard should take on a Power 5 job. And, obviously the coaching cycle, the recruiting and all that stuff is going on now. So, you don't have an answer. So I guess the only answer I would have is stay put for a year, see what happens. Or what you do is whether you go to the Packers or you wait till the Senior Bowl, probably in around February, or I believe they hold it in January or February. You go down to the Senior Bowl and see what the pros have to offer. And he might get a job where it pays a whole lot more, knows defense. He can land in the NFL. I've seen, lots of guys go to the Senior Bowl and make contacts, and they land in the NFL unless he wants to stay in college. And that's only, and we can't answer that as a panel here. That's only something that Jim Leonard. So I'm glad that you're a journalistic professional here, Eric. Is good that you won't bring on a show where he's committed or not, because it's good, because you're not trying to rush to judgment with fake news. All we're trying to do is stimulate a debate here about where he would go based on the fact that, he thought he was going to get the job, didn't. You end up going out of the Barry Alvarez tree, which I still think is a good hire anyway. Yeah. And we're just trying to calculate his next move. And I think right now, in Jim Leonard's case, the best move for this guy should be, the best move to make is no move until you at least hit the Senior Bowl and evaluate and stay with what's. We're only talking December right now anyways. You don't know what's going to open.
I think, the big deal there is the big deal with that is, like, at this point, if he wanted to stay in college and be a head coach, he would have had to just leave right away. But it hasn't happened yet. My thinking is he's more than likely going to stay because, number one, the only jobs that I don't know of another defensive coordinator job that's open that would be up to the standard that Wisconsin is, unless he wants to go to a group buy, but that's way below his pay grade.
Exactly.
That would be that belongs to the fired Power 5 Coaches Association. But But I personally think he stays. I think he's going to check it out, see, okay, with Luke Fickell, because I know Luke Fickell's open, which is good, because Luke Fickell has his own defensive philosophy. I think, I know they've sat down and talked a couple times. I think they would be able to. I think they'd be able to work some things out. I think they bring Mike Tressel along as a linebackers coach. I know that Jim Leonard wouldn't want him as a co-defensive coordinator, but I think they just bring him as a linebackers coach. He sees what he can do with the staff. I think that maybe some of this defensive staff gets retained because in order to keep Leonard around. But I know that Cincinnati. It's a tasty situation for Wisconsin. To be truthful, for the university as a whole, I think it's a good problem to have.
Well, I'll say one last thing. Maybe if it's a big deal for Leonard, he should just go over to Cincinnati instead and become the defensive coordinator for a year. I'm just saying.
They got Satterfield. They just hired Satterfield. He's probably bringing his own person.
Oh, there you go.
Although,
but now Louisville has a vacancy, so maybe he can check out Louisville. But I think he's going to stay. Lou Fickell had a similar situation. He stayed 5 years with Urban Meyer, and then he went to Cincinnati. Jim Leonard is only 40 years old.
Urban Meyer,
young guy, one of the brightest defensive coordinators in all of college football. I think he'll stay. I think he'd be smart to stay and see what happens. And as far as the Lou Fickell, I honestly don't like it. I thought they should have made Jim Leonard the head coach. I just think this is a stepping stone for Luke Fickell because his ideal job and his dream job is to go to Ohio State University where where that's his alma mater. So I see him there for 4 years at Wisconsin. I think he'll do a good job, but ultimately this is just a stepping stone where Jim Leonard is from Wisconsin. He went to school in Wisconsin. He is Wisconsin. This is his job. And I think he's going to stay for loyalty and for other prospects. And eventually he will be a head coach. And I think he'll be a great head coach.
Let me add on to that. Number one, Luke Fickell's not getting the Ohio State job. Ryan Day can have that job for as long as he feels like it.
Not as long as they don't win no championships.
Well, despite his getting his teeth kicked in against Michigan at home, in his house, which I thought wouldn't happen, but it did. But personally, who knows what's going to happen? I know that here's the thing: Barry ball doesn't work anymore. It's over. Barry ball's over. You got to throw the ball down the field, and that's something the Badgers haven't done since they had Russell Wilson. You gotta do it that way now. You have to pass the ball. This is the rules in football these days. Both the NFL and college favor the passing offense. Yes. Wisconsin keeps churning running backs at an impressive rate despite the game changing, but you have to throw if Wisconsin aspires to go to bigger bowl games and win bigger bowl games, they got to throw the ball down the field. I know they had Jack Cohn, but Jack Cohn was a game manager was a game manager. That's all he was. He wasn't going. You weren't going to get big bombs out of him like you would say C.J. Stroud. But, it's not going to be very – but the thing about it, too, is the game has just moved past Barry ball. Michigan, another example, Michigan was known for pounding the ball with their running backs, despite having one Tom Brady there. They had guys like Mike Hart and things like that, as well as Tyrone Wheatley. As among other things, they would pound the ball. The Big Ten for the longest time was pound the ball. But
Desmond Howard,
yes, but he wasn't a running back. But but the thing is, it's become a passing league now. I mean, for better or worse. And I think what I see in Wisconsin's AD is he understands that. I don't think Barry Alvarez really understood that. Just in the end, I mean, I love Barry. Don't get me wrong, and Barry did a great many things well for the University of Wisconsin, but I think the game just modernized on him. And, had he stayed longer and stuck to just Barry ball, that's why Wisconsin's in the position they're in, because they just could not get the QB. They really haven't had one since, I put Jack Cohn up there. I mean, Jack Cohn was productive, but you need that guy with a cannon who can just whip it down the field along with receivers. The rules favor the passing offense now. Running the ball can only do so well.
That's where the transfer portal will help Wisconsin, because now you saw a slew of good quarterbacks So hopefully Wisconsin can get that. But they could have gone there with Jim Leonard too, because the game has changed. Because we have the transfer portal now, which is pretty much college free agency. So I would have given him a shot. But Lou Fickle, I'm fickle about Fickle. We'll put it that way.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think Wisconsin's trying something. They're trying something again. They went out. This isn't the first time they went outside the Barry Alvarez coaching tree. They went outside the Barry Alvarez coaching tree when they hired Gary Anderson. Of course, we saw how that turned out, and they got afraid, went back to the Barry Alvarez tree, and that's why they had Paul Chryst. Which, don't get me wrong, Paul Chryst did amazing things for Wisconsin. Unfortunately, the game got ahead of Paul, and that's why Wisconsin. And then they realized that they were a hovering program. When you become a hovering program, that's when you eventually crash. It happened with the University of Miami. It happened for a little bit with the University of Michigan, but since hiring St. Harbaugh, Michigan's back to what we all knew them as growing up. And we've seen what happened at Nebraska, where they've just nosedived into the dumpster and haven't come out since. But they realized they were starting to become a hovering program, and they learned the lessons that the mistakes that Nebraska made with their hire. I really like Luke Fickell. I think it'll take a little bit of time to really get back to competing with Ohio State. I think it'll take about a year or two for him to put his culture in place, put his program in place, as well as get the guys that he needs in order to be successful. I know, but give it time, and I think Wisconsin will be back to where they were. Brett, what do you got to add?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't mind the hiring of Fickell. I do think Jim Leonard should have gotten a chance, but I do think that under Fickell, the teams under him normally show nice improvement from year to year, so that's always good, and I do think Jim Leonard has a great future as a defensive coordinator. If he replaced Joe Barry tomorrow, I'd be the happiest man alive. Actually, if any of us on this panel replace Joe Barry tomorrow, I'd probably still be happier than watching him again. But no, I do think that Leonard should have gotten a chance next year as a head coach for the Badgers. But I don't mind the Fickell. I don't mind it at all. He ran a lot of the same formations and everything with the Bearcats as we do in Wisconsin. There might be some slight tweaks to his offense compared to what he did out there, but I think the styles are pretty similar, so that should help a lot.
I think Wisconsin found something like in the middle where they modernize as well as still keep everything. I think that's why Braylon Allen stayed. He would still get his touches. Braylon Allen's like John. I wouldn't compare him to Jonathan Taylor, but I wouldn't put him up there like there. But he's still a very talented back, and Wisconsin will still be churning these running backs out. That's just what they do. I mean, this state is full of running backs as well as offensive linemen. We can thank the Scandinavians for that. Candy, what are your thoughts on Fickell, and also where does Jim Leonard stay?
So Jim Leonard was offered the Green Bay job already, not this year but previous. Yes. He decided to stay at Wisconsin because he loves Wisconsin. His wife wanted him to take the Green Bay job. He stayed at Wisconsin for his love of Wisconsin. I like the Fickell hire. Do I think Leonard deserved the job? I don't know. Maybe he's not ready yet. He's doing really good defensively, but is he ready to handle everything, including the recruiting, including the offense and hiring them? And is he going to, I don't know. And maybe, Rick, I hear you. Maybe Fickell is only here for a stepping stone and only a couple of years. But if Leonard stays, he can learn those things from Fickell and then take the job. Because I'm sure that if you give him a couple more years of experience, if he stays at Wisconsin, which I think he will, although I would like it if, and I guess it's hard to do this, because he might be offered other jobs, and maybe he has and he hasn't. We don't know. He's maybe interviewed for other jobs and hasn't decided. I would like him, though, if he has decided to stay at Wisconsin, to come out and say that, because I don't want more people leaving from using the transfer portal because they're unsure if they want him to stay. And maybe Braylon knows something we don't know. Maybe he had a conversation with Leonard because maybe he wants Leonard to be there and he's going to stay because he knows Leonard is going to be there. We don't know. Has Leonard been a Graham? Has any of us been a Graham Mertz
I can't
supporter? I don't know.
First 2 years, yeah. I mean, the COVID year is a little bit unfair just because no spring practice. You know, he was the new guy coming in, and you know, obviously no routine games because of COVID. The games getting canceled left and right. No rhythm. No practices regularly. I mean, that's unfair. 2021, okay, the offense was an absolute disaster aside from Braylon Allen, at least in the passing game anyway, which, you know, I got to give, which I don't think you can give him a pass, but, you know, at the same time, though, we need more. And then this year, you know, come on, this is your year to get it together. I get COVID's unfair and things like that. Also, I took that opportunity. Sorry to interrupt, but this is according to his Twitter account. Jim Leonard just tweeted this 9 minutes ago. It literally broke as we were having this conversation.
Okay.
And I will read it. He will not be a part of the Wisconsin staff after the bowl game. He will be the defensive coordinator in that bowl game, but after this, he is gone.
All right, let me interject one thing about Graham Mertz, and correct me if I'm wrong about this. Okay, Eric. Hasn't he had 3 separate offensive coordinators in 3 years, right? If I heard correctly?
Yes, he had. Well, he had.
Go ahead.
Yes, he had. He had Joe Rudolph to take over for Paul Chryst. They tried that for a year, which that was the COVID year. Well, which
right.
I think had they, I don't know what would have happened had he would have had the normal spring practice routine as well as your regular summer camp. I don't know. Maybe it would have happened. Maybe it wouldn't have. But I think that also really hurt his development.
Yeah. Here's the thing that I've learned over the years covering the NFL as well as in college, particularly the NFL. There is no way any quarterback will succeed when you have 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. I don't care who you are. Okay, period. And I think Graham Mertz, I'm going to have a 4th one. I might as well do it someplace else, but get much better coaching. So I'm glad you broke the news about Leonard. You know, loyalty has its limits, and obviously he's going somewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got offered the Louisville head coaching job.
I think he'll go there.
I agree with you there, Rick. I think that's an excellent point. But back to Mertz, I don't hold anything against the kid for having 3 separate offensive coordinators for years. So he's going to transfer portal. I wish him well. And Rick, I'm with you. I have a feeling that Leonard. I don't blame him. You know, he felt like
Satterfield just got hired. He had just left and went to Cincinnati, and Louisville's a good team.
Yeah, loyalty has its limits.
Yeah, he wants to be a head coach, and I think he was disappointed. And the AD kept calling him Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy did a great job. We love Jimmy. Yeah. He's Coach Leonard, not Jimmy.
No, we affectionately in the state call him Jimmy. That's a state deal, and Jim Leonard knows it. Heck, Barry Alvarez even called him that.
Well, let me point this out to you. Kevin Wilson, as I understand, the former Indiana head coach, got hired by Tulsa. So if that guy can get a job with Tulsa, don't sit here and tell me that Jim Leonard can't get a much better job.
Because he ran away from Indiana because he couldn't handle it.
But that's beside the point. I won't stay on topic, but I'm glad you broke it. That Leonard loyalty has its limits.
Yeah.
Leonard,
I can't. Yep, I won't bash Graham Mertz. I think too many people in the state do. I think too many people in the state bash him as it is. I mean, he's become when the whole Caleb Williams deal was going on, he was basically the picture on the dartboards. But I think though that Graham Mertz is just doing this because number one, it didn't work out. Number two, you have 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. To Scott's point. And you're not gonna win. Also, the offensive line wasn't the same as we knew it to be. Instead, he's getting batted around like a pinball. And Wisconsin just at the end of the day, it just didn't work out. I mean, I wish him luck, but everything over there with him. I really hope that he reaches his potential wherever school he goes to, because I know that he can. But unfortunately, at Wisconsin, it just did not work out.
Well, I see a lot of NFL quarterbacks become bust because there are too many coaching changes, offensive coordinator. So if it's going to happen in NFL, it'll happen in college. So with that said, I think I probably said enough on here. I'm glad that Brett's hanging in there like a first-class trooper. Sorry, Brett, to steal your thunder a little bit tonight, but I guess for a show like this where Eric and Candy and you guys came up with unbelievable storylines, I'm glad to be a part of it. So, I know you've talked about Fickell, Mertz, and the Brewers. I'm going to try to lay low and let you guys take it the rest of the way, but go ahead. I'll hang in there and listen to you guys and go from there. If you need me, just put me on the mute button and I'll be more than happy to let you guys take it from there. Go ahead.
I think though that, I remember Braylon Allen saying that he would stay as long as Leonard's there. And now that Leonard is no longer going to be there, that opens up the question, well, is he going to back down and maybe leave? I don't know. It opens up a lot of things because now, obviously right now, Wisconsin recruiting is in shambles right now. That's just what happens when a new coach comes in, a new staff and whatever. Some guys stay. Other guys decommit, and that's what we're seeing with Wisconsin right now. But I'd say give it some time. Luke Fickell has done this before. He had a lot of success at the University of Cincinnati, even took them to the college football playoffs and was actually did a really good coaching job against Alabama. He actually had them in that ball game. They had a couple opportunities to where it could have been a different game, but unfortunately they were unable to. But still, you do a coaching job like that against a powerhouse like the University of Alabama at a Group 5 school. It's pretty good.
Agreed.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. With the transfer portal, in the first 24 hours, over 1,000 students entered it. So there's so many players out there, and there's going to be so much movement. It'll be interesting to see what the Badger team looks like come next year.
Yep. It's going to be different, that's for sure. I think that the transfer portal, I know Wisconsin's taking advantage of it a little bit, with bringing in guys like a guy like Ches Malusi. But, I think it's going to be a new era of Wisconsin football. I think that
apparently.
Keep in mind though, the AD for Chris McIntosh played for Barry Alvarez, so he knows the Barry Alvarez coaching tree. He was probably one of Barry's greatest offensive linemen, not named Joe Thomas, which I will never put anybody ahead of Joe Thomas of all time Badgers, period, except maybe Ron Dane, but can't do it. But he knows the Barry Alvarez coaching tree. He played for Barry Alvarez. But I think he realized that, let's try going in a different direction right now and see how this goes. But Leonard leaving, I'm not surprised. I'm really not because, homie was just rejected. I was surprised there was even interest in staying. You were just rejected from getting a HUD coaching job that, quite frankly, I
took him to a bowl game.
I know. He took a team that was in a free fall after getting absolutely shellacked against the University of Illinois and got them to a 6-6 record and also beat a Purdue team that eventually went to the Big Ten championship against Michigan and actually made it a ball game for a little bit.
Yep.
It's a lot better than what Iowa had to show for it, where they look like an offensiveless team. But at the end of the day, Jim Leonard's loyalty has its bounds, and Jim Leonard's just reached it. And now I think that he's going to go for either A, the Louisville job, or B, an NFL DC job. I don't know, but but maybe even NFL head coaching job. We saw what happened with Cliff Kingsbury after he was USC's offensive coordinator for a second, and then decided to become after the Arizona Cardinals hired him. So you never know. I wouldn't have put Cliff. I wouldn't have if you told me Cliff Kingsbury was going to be an NFL head coach. I'd say you were nuts.
Yeah, whatever he decides to do, best of luck to Jim Leonard. That's for sure.
Yes. So that covers Wisconsin football. A lot of stuff happening in the state as we speak, and I think that now Mike Tressel, who also is Jim Tressel's kid, is probably going to be the defensive coordinator. I think they're going to do the code DC again, where he brings, now he can just bring his defensive staff over from Cincinnati, and we'll see how it goes this coming season, because they also aren't far away because I know in the future schedule they play the University of Alabama. So I think knowing that's why the moves are made. Now, moving on. I know that it's early in the college basketball season, and I know that we've seen a lot happen. What is your thoughts on the University of Wisconsin's basketball team so far? I'm going to start with Brett.
6-2, can't really argue with the record. I think my thing I would like to see more is ball movement. A leading guy only has 3 assists. I'd love to see just more movement altogether. But can't really complain to start the year, that's for sure. I think Hepburn has looked fantastic. Tyler Wall, he's leading us in scoring. I don't like the 40% field goal percentage, but I do like the energy and effort he's given. So overall, right now, I think we're doing well.
Rick?
Yeah, 6-2, good start. It's still very, very early, but they look really good. You can kind of see who are the contenders and the pretenders. As I live in North Carolina, Tar Heels not looking very good at all. So, but I think Wisconsin, they're going to be in the mix, no doubt about it, and they're off to a good start. So, but still too early to tell. But Wisconsin's always in it, and they always do well. So I'm not worried about them at all. They're a solid basketball team.
Candy?
They are currently going up against Maryland. Who is undefeated right now. They're 8-0, and we are up by 2 points. I watched them play their in-state rival, Marquette. That was an awesome game. Marquette hadn't lost at home since January 1st of this year. They were on a 13-game home win streak. The Badgers broke it. It was a good game. I think they play a little streaky. They're not as solid, would say. I think they're going to have a good year, but I think it's going to be tough. I don't think they'll be as good as they have been maybe in the past. They have a chance to prove me wrong, but I miss the days of Frank Kaminsky and Decker and those guys. But I think they'll do well. I just don't know if they'll do as well as we'd like.
Yeah, join the club. Who the heck would miss Frank Kaminsky? Come on,
Frank
really?
the Tank.
What did they get
Former
to?
Hornet.
What did they do? Get to a pair of final games with
Final Four, yeah.
Final Four.
And a natty, too.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
And a national championship, too.
Right.
Where they were an out-of-bounds call away from beating Duke.
Yeah, that was a good run there by him. Frank Kaminsky maybe didn't pan out as well in the pros, but boy's a heck of a college player.
Oh, yeah. On my end, so far so good. They put up a fight against the defending champs against Kansas, and again, we're an out-of-bounds call away from beating them. But, I think so far they're about what I expected them to be. I think that, they've been in some games. I think they're younger this year. I think they have a good kind of young. I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten this year. I think Big Ten's always strong, but I don't think you can duplicate the miracle run they went on last year, which fortunately I was at the game when Hepburn hit the shot against Purdue. I'm telling you, if you thought it was crazy on TV, you thought the place was up for grabs when seeing it live at the whiteout game, which to me that was something. It's one of those things where you're just not going to see it again. If it happens, it happens. But for a shot like that at the buzzer and you beat Purdue and you cut out Purdue's heart at your home court. What's more special than that? And also, at the celebration on Regent Street, oh boy. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen this year. It's just they're not. I don't think they're that kind of team this year. It's just not like if they don't have I don't think they have a Johnny Davis who can just go off at any time and just throw up 30 points just sitting there. I don't think they have that kind of player. I think they're going to be a scrappy team. Huh?
They have Jordan Davis, not Johnny Davis this year.
Yes, they do. And young player, but we'll see how it goes. I think I think that shooting wise, I still need more, but still early in the year. So we'll see if they can get that together. I know shooting really plagued them down the stretch. Their shooting woes really bit them against. They had a winnable game against Iowa State, and their shooting woes was what really killed them. Granted, Iowa State's defense is very suffocating, but their shooting woes really got them last year. But so far, I think this team's going to be scrappy. I think they're going to be a tournament team. But I can't really tell you where they'll go because again they've only played 8 games this year, so it's still early. And from right now, they've proven they can hang out with the big dogs like Maryland right now, which they're knotted up, and also Kansas, which Kansas. I thought, man, if you're playing Kansas, you got no shot. They had a tough early schedule, I will say that. And the fact that they were hanging there, I think this team is going to. I think the team will surprise people, just not the way they did last year, which to also was probably one of the greatest sporting events I've ever been to.
Nice.
What about you, Scott?
You tell me. I mean, the way I look at it is, I like it when Wisconsin basketball is going real well. I do. I think anytime you have a state like this, I think the Marquette-Wisconsin rivalry is an intriguing one. The only thing that really I wish the state of Wisconsin had was they had a bigger in-state rivalry within the football. I really do. I've always wondered about that. We have to wait till basketball season to see a real rivalry in that state, Wisconsin and Marquette. Yes, I understand that Wisconsin has a lot of different schools. What do they have? Lacrosse. They have Whitewater.
Yeah, they have Milwaukee
and Eau Claire or whatever.
Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay.
Stevens Point, River Falls.
Yep. I can't keep track of them. My God, there's a guy that has more podcasts. Well, you have more schools than this idiot has podcasts. I mean, my God, it's just the truth. I mean, you're asking me what I think. I'm telling you. I just want to see a real football rivalry here with Wisconsin. Is there a Wisconsin state against Wisconsin? I don't know.
You could say
Texas
Iowa.
Did a good job, right, Brett, reinventing Texas State out against Texas, and nobody knows what Texas State, although I've driven by there. I shouldn't say anything about it. When I was working in Texas back there. What do I think? I'd love to see Wisconsin have a football rivalry, Wisconsin State. Is there such a school called Wisconsin State at all up there?
No.
Somebody's got to get smart.
How about Green Bay? Isn't there Green Bay College or something?
What do you do there?
They got Wisconsin Green Bay. It's a big old UW system.
Yeah, but no. Forget that business. Every other state on the planet, we have a state.
Iowa. That's the closest.
What's that?
Iowa.
Hey, listen, don't mess around with Iowa now. There's a Mr. Irrelevant out there from Iowa State that's actually playing for the 49ers. Again,
that'd be their rival, Iowa.
I know. I'm talking about Wisconsin State. Come on, Curdy, jump on the same horn with me. You can't jump on the Fred McGriff one anymore. We need a Wisconsin State, everybody.
Up until recent years, speaking of Iowa,
Alvarez could be the dean.
Barry Alvarez is already the dean by himself, just standing there.
I'm telling you, where are the rivalries at Division I in Wisconsin? Guess what?
I
closed my eyes.
They did at one point a long time ago against Marquette.
Ray Charles is going to get hashtagged because I mentioned him here. Where is it? I can't see them. Ray Charles, hashtag it later, whoever does that stuff. No, I mean, but really, Wisconsin Marquette was a great rivalry. And I'm the only one on this panel old enough, probably, maybe with the exception of Candy, that understands Al McGuire's last game was a win over North Carolina to win the national championship. My goodness. I mean, don't get any better than that for that school. But yeah, I know all these Wisconsin schools on the Division 2, 3 level. Give me a break. Bring on Wisconsin State. We need one. You got everything else there.
We prefer to keep it the state's largest party for a reason.
Oh, I'm sure you do. And you know what? Am I out of line by saying something I don't know a whole lot about since I'm not from the area? Although
you go to Madison on Saturday. There's a reason they call it the state's largest party. It's really is a party where Regent Street, you can't even drive on it because there's people everywhere. The bars are packed. I'm telling you, they are packed to capacity to the point where they're just trying to let additional people in.
I'll take your word, but have you ever been to Austin, Texas?
No, I have not.
Well, I'll tell you what, I invite every one of you on this panel here, go to Austin, Texas. And I know about Madison. It's a great town. I've said it all show, but go to Austin, Texas and tell me what a party that one is. I've actually been there. I was actually covering the Alamo Bowl years ago when Michigan took on Nebraska. And yes, you think I'm kidding around the Texas State. I actually saw a game over a basketball game, Texas and Texas State on the hard court. So
you can give me the horn.
Big deal out of it.
You can give me the horn. I'll give them the horns down on that one because Madison really is America's college town.
I'm not giving the horns down. I'll take your word for it. I saw a game. Let me tell you what a strange bird I am. I thought the stadium was going to get collapsed here when they were doing that jump around. I thought, holy moly, are we having an earthquake the day that I'm there? No, it's just after when you do it in the stands, your calves actually feel it when you're walking outside. Yeah, well, when you're asking the PR guy, am I going to live to see my next birthday, and you're covering a game in November, and you're not familiar with the jump around, my goodness. Holy moly, I didn't know. And then all of a sudden, the day that we were there, the elevator broke down, and I had to go down 8-10 levels of stairs to get down to the bottom.
It'd be like that, Scott.
Huh?
It'd be like that, Scott.
Yeah, well, and then and to make matters more interesting, we had to go how far to get to the garages to say whatever I ate there, I burned it off on one trip over there. I mean, I will tell you, they had that one great delicatessen there. I don't remember what it was, but
all right. Yep, we're out of time here tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're gonna go around the horn, Scott.
You know what? Candy steals my thunder. Candy, give it all to him. I'm just glad to be on the show with you guys, promoting Wisconsin State University, even though it doesn't exist. That's what my motto will be for the night. All right, Candy, just take it for both of us.
So I'm going to do a parting shot before I sign off. My parting shot is kudos to the Milwaukee Bucks. Today is number 34, Giannis's birthday. Mm-hmm. And what they did is they were selling tickets to the lower bowl for $34. Kudos for making that happen and celebrating your star's birthday. Happy birthday, Giannis. And with that, this show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. You can please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. All you do is that little red button on the side as you're watching, hit subscribe, and you'll be able to see all of our content, all of our good shows. If you have any show ideas, please email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Visit us on our website, southfloridatribune.com. If you would like to advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. Thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, my final comment of the night, if there's such a thing. Sorry, Brett, that I stole a little bit of your thunder tonight. I promise you it won't happen the next time because, you know what? I think you guys are making a great team with it. I enjoy being on here. I like coming on here from time to time and shooting the breeze with you guys. So you guys have brought this show a long way. So, Brett, sorry, bro. I didn't neglect you. But when I get a little long-winded, you know me, I tend to go off a time or two. Rick Hurdy already knows, and Rick and Eric's gotten a heavy dose of it. So, Brent, you're the most valuable player tonight because you got the best ears and the most patience I have ever seen. And that's not a parting shot. That's just a full-fledged compliment to you, Mr. Gardapi, and I'm glad that you're a friend of mine and so forth. You are great, Brett. More power to you, my friend.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so Brett, where can we find you?
Oh, sorry about that. I'll do a quick parting shot too. Green Bay Packers, I've seen enough of Aaron Rodgers this year. We have less than a 5% chance to make the playoffs. Do I think Jordan Love's anything special? I'm not sure. He looked good against the Eagles. But I'm still not going to sit here and anoint him the next Aaron Rodgers. I need to see more of him, and that's exactly what I want to see coming out of the bye week. So more Love, less Rodgers, week 15. You can find me at Gardy3. I'm on Spotify and Anchor right now. I'm coming out with a new episode. I'm recording right after this, and new episode tomorrow, naming my quarter of the year all NBA teams. Otherwise, you can give me episode ideas, Gardy3 on Facebook, or just reach out to me at Brett Gardapi on Twitter.
Well, I'm going to do my little party shot, and my thumbs down to Chris McIntosh, the AD of Wisconsin. I thought he handled the whole Jim Leonard thing. It was atrocious. They lost one of the best defensive mind, a 40-year-old guy, best defensive minds in all of college football. And you got Fickle, who I think this is just a stepping stone because eventually he wants to go to Ohio State. And you know what? Louisville, you need a coach. Satterfield left to Cincinnati. Go get Jim Leonard. He should be the next head coach of Louisville. You can find me on www.charlottebats.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball, and Instagram. And my email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. And go on our website and sign our petition to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, you can but for me, you can find me on Twitter at Sports Team News, or you can follow my blog at bellyupsports.com, where I'm talking all things Major League Baseball. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.